All right. I got Taylor Lideen on the podcast today. Welcome to the Stoke podcast, finally.
Thanks, dude. I appreciate you having me on. It was what did we see just a little over a week ago, and down in
Yeah.
near Tucson.
Yeah, it's always good to see you. Every time you see me, I got the coffee trailer.
Yeah. Now, well, you have coffee trailer, your family, now your little one. It's like
Yeah,
you got a ton of stuff going on.
it's crazy. Yeah, new job. New job coming out of the off season. Baby. We just got a cat. Business. Yeah, it's
Full
we're
plate, full
dude,
plate.
we're our family just is runs on full throttle. We're pretty good at just like going with the flow.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then we'll be Belgian waffle this weekend,
Okay.
and then we'll be doing business and racing Cactus Cup next weekend.
Are you guys gonna go home back north between the two?
Oh yeah, go
Okay.
back to work on Monday, and
Yep.
then head back out again on Thursday for the coffee trailer. But
Gosh, that's a lot, man.
yeah, it's crazy. And then trying to race while operating a business is the most stressful thing in the world.
Oh, yeah, I can't even imagine. And then, well, because you're like, even when you're racing, you're still running the coffee
hmm
trailer, right?
hmm
So
So I got
that's full week, like full on weekend.
yeah. So I have to pack my bike, all my stuff, my nutrition, but then I have to pack, 20 pounds of beans, milks, coolers, trailer, you know.
And then you also need to leave energy for your kid.
Yep.
Like, yeah, that's
Which
a
which
lot.
honestly I need to leave energy for uh business and racing because the kid takes up 95% of
Yeah,
everything, you know? It's
yeah,
like
I
that's
can't even imagine.
that's your main focus. Yeah, from the time you wake up to the time you fall asleep on the couch, it is full dad mode, I call it.
Props to you, man.
Hey.
Our closest friends in Arizona that I've my best friends since elementary school. They a lot of them have just had their first kids in the past 5 or 6 months. And yeah, it's like been this total life change. Obviously for them for the better, right? But
Yeah.
like your life just totally changes. Like
Oh,
the energy that you have for like hobbies or extracurricular activities, you need to really like balance those things. And
mhm.
I definitely give props to you and them and everybody else that is doing what you guys are doing on top of having a kid.
Thank you. Yeah. And I went and rode with a 16-year-old kid this last weekend,
Mm-hmm.
and he was telling me, it's like, dude, just really hard, I really just can't find time to train. And I was like, dude, you don't even know. Like, you are in the prime of your life. You have no
Yeah.
responsibilities. I'm like, you talk about time to train. I mean, you put a 40-hour work week, kids,
Yeah.
business, I mean, he was like, yeah, I guess you're pretty right. I'm like, yeah, dude, enjoy it, man. You don't need to do 4-hour rides every
No,
day?
it's all relative, right? Like
Yeah.
I remember growing up and my dad always telling me, if it's important to you, you'll make time to do it.
Mhm.
Like, and I think that's true with everything, right? Like for you, obviously your kid takes precedence over everything. So
Yeah.
you will make time and you're going to set the most time aside for that.
Yeah.
And then you still want to race your bike. So that's important to you. So maybe the time that you've allotted to be able to train and go to events has diminished, but it's still important to you. So you still do it.
Yeah.
Like you're making time.
That's I've never heard that one. And it's so true.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to force yourself to do anything.
Yeah.
You will find time if you truly love it.
Yeah. Exactly. Otherwise, if you don't like it enough, you're going to find ways to not do it,
Yeah. Like
And
excuse.
I think we all come up with ways like, obviously we don't want to do things, but
Yeah.
like it's prioritizing things. And my dad used to always tell me like get used to doing things you don't like to do because majority of your life you're going to do things that you don't want to do,
hmm
like whether it be work or chores around the house or yard, whatever it is. So like, it's like you better get good at stuff you don't want to do.
Because it's a lot of it.
It's a lot. Yeah.
You know, when you go, perfect example is like open the trash can and you're like, shit,
It's full.
gotta take this out, you know?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you can't go forever with like not taking the trash out. But yeah,
I'm
no.
sure this, I'm sure the same thing goes for you when like you're packing up after BWR to go home this weekend, after
Mhm.
this weekend, and then repack to come back down for Cactus Cup. You're probably like,
Yeah.
oh,
Oh yeah. Well,
I just did this.
yeah. And Taylor, you know, it's like not just I gotta pack like a bike helmet in my suitcase. Like it's like pack and play, which is basically a crib that you can take with you. Your all your baby stuff, which is twice as much as what you have, the
Yeah.
diapers, the wipes, the toys, the books, you
Yeah.
know, your wife's stuff.
Yeah.
By the time you're leaving for a 2 day trip, you know, we look like the Brady Bunch, you know, with the dog, we're like, like going down to
You're like, how do I need so much shit to go 2 hours south?
oh, it's crazy. Oh,
Yeah.
it's so crazy. Our life is packing and unpacking, like all we do. And then when you throw the business into it too, you know,
Hmm.
then you like that's like the baby, the dog, my suitcase, her suitcase. And then you're like, okay, now all the beans, the milks, the coolers, the foods, yeah, it's just like, holy shit. It's a lot. It's a lot.
That's funny.
Yeah. So I think that's why I'm semi-successful for racing at the pro level with not being able to train like that, is because I
Mhm.
don't have to think about the race. Everything is just like, all right.
I think it's less like the racing part's probably the easy side for what you have going on.
Oh yeah.
It's
The
like now
race
I
is
get to enjoy it.
yeah, I don't have to I don't even get to think about the race. It's
Yeah.
just something I'm like, okay, oh my God, it's 7:45. I need to get my kid on and warm up in 15 minutes to get to the start line. And I get to the start line, I'm like, oh,
I
gotta
only
go.
have to think about riding my bike now for the next 2+ hours. But then when you're done, you're like, I got to think about coffee. I got to think about my wife, my kid, like
Yeah.
all logistics behind that. Like
Yeah.
if like the bike race is the time where you can disconnect from everything on these
Oh,
weekends for you.
oh yeah. And just dig deep with, you know, call it dad watts for a reason. Like,
Yeah.
you know? Um, but so congrats, by the way, on the Old Pueblo. That
Thanks,
was
man.
absolutely stellar. We're shifting gears a little bit, and I'm just excited and like curious to know like how you and Lachlan were just able to link up. Did he text you or did you text him like, hey, you know, we're both ultra endurance athletes. I don't really want to do 24 hours this year, but I want to break the record. Do you want to do it?
It was kind of funny. Like, um, my coach, Dave Harris, we kind of changed my whole program back in November. Like, shifted gears totally on how he coaches me. And with that change, I kind of got in my head, I was like, oh, it'd be really fun to do something I just love Old Pueblo so much.
Mhm.
Like being from Phoenix, I've said it a bunch, but like to me, that's the Super Bowl of bike racing.
Yeah.
Um, and so I was like, how do I find a way to get down there and still like participate? And I I've always done it solo, and I kind of kicked around the idea of it, doing it solo, but at the same time, like it's so hard to race that thing solo in February because it burns so many matches so early.
Hmm.
So we were talking, he's just like, I don't think it's a good idea. Like, don't do solo. And so I had thought about this idea of doing a duo. But I honestly had zero interest of doing a duo like the more traditional way, where people either do one lap on, one lap off, or they double up on laps. Like to me, that just sounds terrible. Like I can't. I've done one duo 12 hour, and we switched off every lap, and I was like, not doing that again.
Yeah.
So I really thought like, who would be interested in doing this? And I emailed Lachlan, and then just a couple days later, we hopped on the phone, and he was totally game. He's like, "Yeah, let's do it." And I told him my idea of doing like 12-hour shifts, and he was like, "Yeah." Basically, didn't have to convince him at all.
Yeah.
So it was super low stress, like pretty much last minute. Like I think we hopped on the phone early to kind of mid-January. And all we said was like, yeah, let's just go out there, try and go fast and have fun, and we'll just split it up. And we didn't really sit down and talk game plan until the day before. Um, and all we had in our minds was like, we looked at the duo record and we're like, oh, it'd be kind of fun to chase the duo record doing it in rather like a rather non-traditional way, splitting
Yeah.
up the shifts into 12 hours. And then so he did the first half and then I did the second half. And then as the race wore on, our pit crews um, started to figure out timing and they're like, actually, once I was out there right when the sun came up, I would call my pit crew every time we crossed the road. And so I would do that solo too. Like I call them and tell them like, hey, I'm 10 minutes out. Can I just have this ready? And so they'd hand me it off. It saves a little bit of time in transition. So they told me, they're like, hey, you guys are on track for 24 laps. And I was like, there's no way. Like, it never even crossed my mind that we would get 24 laps. I honestly thought, and I think Lachlan would say the same thing. Like, we just wanted to go fast and have fun. And
Yeah.
then once our crews started to figure out the math, they kind of shifted the game plan of how the race would play out in terms of like Lachlan would do. Well, they started talking about this closer to the end of his shift. So Lachlan did 11 laps, I did 11 laps, and then he went back and slept for 6 hours, and then he did one and I did one. And a lot of people don't know this, but I was so nervous to do that last lap because I only had about 55 minutes off the bike and Lachlan was pretty fresh.
Yeah.
I'm like a real, I struggle with confidence a lot. Like a pretty self-deprecating person. I always have been. And so after I finished my 11 laps and Lachlan went out for his 12th, which was our 23rd, I basically just sat in the transition tent and Lachlan's crew and my crew were like, Taylor, can you go out there and do like a 59 to an hour minute lap? And I'm like, fuck, like, I hope so. I mean, I'll try.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you guys are leading. If Lachlan's going to bring back this 4-man team, because I had passed the 4-man team that was overall in the
Mhm.
lead, and I got passed back before I handed it off to Lachlan. And then Lachlan passed them to give me about a minute 30 buffer to start that last lap. And I was so freaking nervous. I was like, I don't want to be the guy that blows this. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's like I want at first when I finished my 11th lap, I and Lachlan went out. At first, I was like, let's just have Lachlan do the last two because he went home and slept.
Yeah.
And then we all got to talking, his crew, my crew, and my wife, who was back in Arkansas on the phone. And they're like, no, you guys got to divvy it up evenly, like do 12 and 12, right? So I'm like, God, it's so much easier said than done, but like I'll just go out and try. And it worked out in the end. I don't know. I'm like I said just before, like I'm a very self-deprecating person. So I'm like, I'm gonna blow it. I'm totally gonna blow this thing, screw it up for everybody involved. And yeah, it worked out. And I think my pit crew, I'm really good friends with the two main guys that helped me, Mike Rice and Kenny Wen.
Mhm.
Um, and they were just like, just go out and ride as hard as you can. And I'm like, I'll try. Like I have basically 12 hours in the leg, but I'll
Yeah.
see what I can do. And yeah, I think I'm really thankful that I think they kind of ran like a test on me to see how I would react to that pressure late.
Mhm.
Um, and Lachlan's crew and Lachlan were so cool. They were like, dude, if we get passed for the overall, who cares? Like, we don't care. Like,
Yeah.
it's been super fun. So, yeah, Lachlan was the perfect partner. Him and his crew were awesome. You just like to do stuff with people like that they just say yes, right?
Mhm.
Like, they don't take much convincing.
No,
Um, so it was freaking awesome. Yeah,
I
it was a blast.
I couldn't imagine you with anyone else but Lachlan. Like if
Yeah.
you, like if you were to describe like I'm gonna team up with someone, to ride 12 hours with. Lachlan would be the perfect person. He's kind
Yeah.
of the guy who's like, all right, well, I don't care. I mean, do you want me to ride like from British Columbia to Mexico, like really fast in flip-flops? All right, let's do it.
Yeah. Like
Yeah,
I'll ride from my house from California to the start, then do the first 12 and then hand it off. Yeah.
yeah. And
No,
so
it was fun, man.
what's crazy and like for all the listeners out there, you were racing a for the overall, you were racing a four-person team,
Hmm.
and it was just you and Lachlan. And so just whoever listens right now, just put yourself in that shoe of you just raced 12 hours and there's a four-man team who are pretty fresh, and you're still trying to beat that four-man team with just two people. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was definitely like looking back on it, I think I definitely surprised myself. But I think for Lachlan and I, that was the only way to do it
Mhm.
because I think that him and I are similar in like if we did on off or double laps, I would have been toast come 10 a.m. on Sunday. Like I don't operate well like that. Like for
Mm.
me, I need a long time to get warmed up. Like I need 2 or 3 hours in the legs until I'm like, okay, now I'm starting to feel good.
Yeah.
And I think Lachlan's the same way, right? So I think that was the only way that we could do it. I think in the long run, it's I think it may be a little bit slower for to do that if for other two-man teams.
Yeah.
It was the way that we wanted to do it, and yeah, that's kind of the only way I imagine doing and imagine doing it.
Yeah, and especially after, the last few years trying to do the 24-hour solo, coming into the 24-hour old Pueblo, knowing that I don't have to do 24 hours, I get to just do 12 hours
Yeah,
is probably a huge weight off the shoulders.
yeah,
Um, I have a similar experience. We did a 12-hour duo, but we did two and two for
hmm,
a while, and then we went to one and one because we were going out so hard for the first two, and then he'd go out hard too. I would go hard too. And so, man, like 6 hours in, we were like, "Whoa, I wish
yeah,
we could just done. All right, I'll go six, and then you go six because it's like you get warmed up, you get fresh, and then you sit,
yep.
and then you get cold because in Flagstaff it kind of got cold, and
Oh,
so
for sure.
yeah, you just get out of the rhythm. So no, I think that's super smart and it's so unique. Isn't that the first time ever it's ever been done too?
Yeah, at least at that race.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like we had talked to Todd a couple weeks before the race, and he was like, "Oh, I think this is a pretty cool idea. Like we've never had anybody do it this way." So it was kind of just a fun experiment too. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of people assume like we had stuff so figured out mathematically before the start of the race, and that definitely we had an idea of what we wanted to average in terms of lap times. And then when our pit crews realized that our average was much lower than what we were hoping for, then
Mhm.
that's when everything kind of shifted. So it was fun. It was just like, oh, there's a bonus. There's a bonus on the table now.
Totally. Yeah. What was your average speed?
Um, I think I ran so for 12 laps, my average was like an hour and 20
Per?
per or for yeah, for over for 12 laps, which was I mean, for 24 laps, I think we did it in 24 hours and 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, for like 12 hours and 20 minutes, it was like just over an hour.
Dang.
So and then Lachlan ran into some trouble with his lights on 2 laps at night. Um, and so that I think he averaged like 103s or something like that. But if he didn't have trouble with those lights, he was and that was another thing too, right? Is like I didn't realize going second. I was like, dang, that I didn't realize the pressure I put on myself because Lachlan just lit it up the
Yeah.
first day. I'm like, if I don't live up to this, like I look like an idiot.
Yeah. And not, you know, saying anything about you. I mean, you both are amazing riders, but Lachlan Morton, I mean, that's where he thrives is
Yeah.
those really, really long bike rides.
Yeah.
So I'm sure coming behind him, it was probably intimidating.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like, man, I'm the one who brought this idea up, so I better like live up to the to the expectation here. I didn't want him to be like to lay down these heaters for the first day, and then I go out and then him sit in his pit or go back to the hotel and sleep and be like, this guy just blew it. You know? So
Yeah. Or like, anything can happen too in 12 hours. Like it doesn't even have to do with your physical ability, let alone like your machine. A wheel
yeah,
could blow, the chain could break, crank could break. I mean, there's so many things that can happen that can just blow a race like that.
for sure. And like we were super fortunate, right? Like our pit crews were so dialed, so there was no second guessing like them having nutrition ready, equipment in the pits ready in case we needed it. So like that stuff was it kind of takes some stress off. Um, it was the first race on a new bike for me, and it just I think that that excitement also helped being on a new bike.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it was just like a I don't know, it's definitely a highlight. And then I think I the recovery definitely wasn't as bad as like a doing a solo,
Mhm.
but it's different in a way because you're racing obviously you're racing harder than you would race a solo. So like I feel like the recovery, the fatigue didn't kick in until like 2 or 3 days once I got home back to Arkansas.
Mm.
And then you're kind of playing like, oh, I gotta play catch up here. So it's just it's interesting.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's more you're riding at just a higher wattage for
Yeah.
12 hours. So you might even put on a huge stress to the body
Yeah.
as equal to a 24-hour race.
Yeah.
Uh, and so do you just take the bike off or how did you kind of handle that?
Um, so we finished on Sunday, obviously, afternoon, and then I flew out first thing Monday morning
Mm.
back to Arkansas. The problem that I had was I made this assumption that, oh, I'm not starting until close to midnight, so I will sleep. I'll take like a 4 hour nap before I start. And that was not the case. Like I just couldn't sleep.
No.
So I mean, we woke up at like 7 on Saturday, and then I didn't get to bed until probably 10:30 on Sunday night. And so I just like, I just totally misjudged the fact that I wasn't going to be able to sleep before my shift.
Yeah,
And so that was like, whoa, I hit a wall hard.
I'm sure.
And then when I got home on Sunday, I was like, I need I need 2 days of solid sleep.
Yeah, like a bear.
Yeah. Yeah.
You need a hibernate after that.
Yeah. So it was like I didn't sleep like 12 plus hours or anything, but I just slept so hard.
Yeah. Oh my God. Um, and so how was the new bike, by the way?
It was freaking awesome. I'm like, yeah, I'm in love with it. It's like I've only known one bike for so long. And so
Mhm.
it was really, it was scary to change what basically all I know. Um, but I think I needed to change in
Yeah.
a way. And then moving to Northwest Arkansas at the end of 2021, I've I've always even since before moving there, like I've really I really appreciated Allied's design work, the way that they custom paint bikes. Um, and then getting to know people at Allied after moving there, it was like, oh, this is a really cool brand, not just because of the product that they make, but also like the testing that they do in my backyard. It's weird because it's kind of similar to Pivot, right? I was with
Yeah.
Pivot for so long, living at the base of South Mountain. A lot of the testing was done on South Mountain, and then I moved to Northwest Arkansas, and all the testing is done in my backyard in Bella Vista, Bentonville. So it was just, yeah, it's been so freaking cool, and I don't know, I definitely feel privileged to be where I'm at right now with Allied. I'm super thankful for them. Like the second we started working together, they've just treated me really, really well.
Yeah.
Um, and I couldn't be happier and more thankful for the opportunity. But
Yeah.
the bike was so awesome.
Yeah, dude, so sexy.
Yeah.
I've never ridden one, but just the design is
Yeah.
just different. Like it's
It's
an
so it's so cool because the bike rides, you can, most people set the bike up 120, 120 front and rear.
yeah.
Um, and it's still a super fast, nimble bike, 120, 120. But then I set my bike up 100 mil front and rear for Old Pueblo and probably will keep it that way for the majority of the season. And it feels like the acceleration is insane. I personally like a steeper seat tube angle.
Mhm.
And that's one thing I noticed right away is like, I feel like I can climb better with a steeper seat tube angle.
Yeah,
And I'm like in love with the idea of having a bike that I'm a little further. I feel like I'm a little over the BB a bit more. And so that, I think that that's going to pay dividends in the long run.
totally. Yeah, and I don't know, you haven't really released the gravel bike, but have you?
Actually, both bikes I'm on right now are not my personal bikes.
Oh,
Because this is, I mean, I'm sure you know, but I don't think a lot of people know, like every Allied is made in Northwest Arkansas. Nothing is done overseas. So if you place an order for a bike, like they lay it up in house. And so my bikes are still being made at the moment. It's not like it's not like when I signed with them, they're like, okay, we're going to make your bike. Like there's paying customers that their bikes are in line, right? Like,
yeah,
so I think that the next step is we're going to design the custom paint job for my mountain bike and for gravel bike. So I'm on demos right now, just with my parts.
sweet.
Um, yeah, it's real. I'm super excited about it.
Cool. I'm excited to see what you choose for that paint job.
Yeah, I mean it's funny because I like black everything.
I was gonna
Like
say black, all black allied with a white allied up would be so sick.
yeah, but then my wife Mary's like, you need to do something different. Like you get to choose your paint job, do something different. And I'm like,
Yeah,
I always wanted just a black bike with white logos. So we'll see what we come up with.
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm stoked for you. Like you've been with Pivot for a long time, but it goes to show, I mean, you were in Arizona, and like Pivot is based in Phoenix but how long were you with Pivot? Years, right? Like,
Yeah, I actually started working for Pivot in 2013,
mhm.
and then started racing enduro on a Pivot in 2014. And then yeah, I've been on pivots. I mean, I was obviously riding a pivot in 2013 when I worked there, but then
Yeah,
I stopped working there, and then I started racing more and more. And then actually, my wife worked for Pivot for nearly 7 years before we
really.
moved to Arkansas. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I've known Chris Kokalis even long before I worked there.
Yep.
Uh, I was actually, when I got the job with Pivot, I was out of a job and I needed a job. And I just contacted Chris and I was like, hey, can you hire me? Like, I will do if you need the bathrooms cleaned, if you need like whatever. I need a job. I really like the idea of working for Pivot, and that's how my relationship with them started in terms of riding their bikes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so growing up in Phoenix, um, I can kind of relate because I live in Flagstaff and we spend a lot of time in Phoenix, just because of the weather in the winter.
Mhm.
Um, so were you born and raised in Phoenix and just kind of,
So I was born in Bedford, Texas. Um, and then my family moved back to Phoenix when I was 2 or 3. So I've lived basically my whole life in Phoenix. Actually lived most of my life in the foothills area in Ahwatukee.
oh, sweet.
Um, and then that's where I met my wife, Mary. We met in high school at Desert Vista. If people probably have no idea what that is, but that's in Ahwatukee where I grew up. And then we spent 1 year in Colorado, and then moved back to Phoenix. And we were back in Phoenix for 6 or 7 years before we moved to Arkansas. So
Sweet.
yeah.
Where in Colorado?
We lived in Dillon, Colorado. So,
Dylan?
yep. People will probably recognize Dillon. It's our house was about 2 miles from Keystone.
Yeah,
Ski Yeah.
yeah. I'm from born and raised in Gunnison, Colorado.
Yeah. Yeah. Gunnison is freaking awesome. I
It's
love
rad.
Gunnison.
Yeah, for like 4 months out of the year, and then it's just Arctic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Hartman Rocks. Is that what it is?
yeah,
Hartman's Rock? Yeah. I love that area. And
yeah.
Crested Butte is like all I you can't find a better place to ride a mountain bike. The problem is you can only ride a mountain bike there for like 3 months.
No, that's like literally the mecca of mountain biking.
Yeah.
It's old hippies who rode townies, like
Yeah.
built trails back there,
It's so
and
sick.
ripped them on townies, like hardtail.
Yeah.
Mountain bikes weren't even invented yet. And they're like, no, I feel like we can take these things out there, and
Yeah. Above
just
tree line.
above tree line. Yeah. But um, yeah, and I know like you guys moved to Arkansas for just the pricing,
Yeah.
um, just everything here in Arizona and in Colorado.
Yeah.
Absolutely astounding.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It was like we had rented once we moved back from Colorado, we were renting the same house from a friend, and we felt super fortunate that like we never got our rent raised in the 6+ years that we lived there after we moved back. So we had started kind of kicking around the idea of buying our first house. And it was just one of those things where Arizona wasn't really realistic
yeah,
to buy our first home. So we just decided like, well, let's check out Utah, let's check out Colorado, and obviously the same thing, just so expensive. And so we had never even stepped foot in the state of Arkansas. Arkansas was honestly the most random place to us.
yeah,
And we, a friend of ours, really good friend of ours, is a real estate agent. He hooked us up with an agent in Arkansas. I think like 2 or 3 days later, my wife was on a plane, flew out there, toured like 10 homes in a weekend, decided on a house while I was still in Arizona, and we moved out there like 3 months later.
crazy.
It was, yeah, it turns out to be the best decision we ever made. Like we're
I was gonna say,
so stoked. Yeah, we're so
that-
excited.
that's how it should be. Just
Yeah,
full send. All right, babe, go check them out. I trust you.
it was scary. Like it was super scary, but our thought was like we can always move back.
Yeah.
Like if we don't like it, we can either move somewhere else, try something different, or we can come back to Arizona. So, I mean, it was difficult because our family is here in Phoenix. We have
Mhm.
a really, really tight knit of friends. Um, I've had the majority of my friend group since elementary school, and they're all here. So that was kind of hard to move away, but at the same time, we come back to Arizona usually for 2 weeks in this time of year in February, and
Mhm.
then since moving, we've actually come back for 2+ weeks every November too. So we're here a lot.
Yeah, and a lot of the races are on the West Coast, so I'm sure you find yourself coming back and forth. There's
Yeah,
Steamboat, Gravel, and Leadville 100, and
yeah,
just the Cactus Cup. I mean, everything kind of starts in Phoenix and then kind of
blossoms out.
migrates upwards. Yeah,
Yeah.
which
So
that's why I love it here. Is like in Flagstaff, we there's snow outside, but this last weekend we just went down an hour to Cottonwood, saw some friends, and just rode single track
yeah,
and got out and Kenzie ran, and we just had a good time in 70 degrees. And we came back up here and it was 52. It's just
yeah.
uh
Do you
hit
go? Do you ride Sedona much in the winter?
yeah, so I try to ride Sedona as much as I can this year, not so much, but in previous years I would go down there almost every weekend.
Okay.
Yeah, just I mean 30 minutes south, and it's just I mean Sedona. It's
Yeah.
unreal
Can't beat it.
hard riding, like you can't average anything more than 11 miles an hour because you
That's
know
the best riding though. That's the
oh,
best riding.
that's my type of riding. And I say that's the kind of riding that I can compete with the the smaller guys who have like a really high watt output.
Yeah.
I'm just a bigger guy, but it's when it becomes technical and punchy and like there's a drop, I'm dropping it. You know, like when it comes to like enduro, like let's go.
Have you gone to True Grit in St. George?
No,
Oh, you should definitely look into that race. It's
really.
it takes place in March. I mean, a couple weeks. Super similar to Sedona, and it is such a good mountain bike race. Like that course is legit. You should definitely look into that.
Is it near Moab?
No, it's St. George's in the. It's
Oh,
maybe hour and a half north of Las Vegas.
ooh.
Yeah, it's freaking awesome. The course is unreal.
Yeah, because that's not too far. I mean, it's
Yeah,
probably like a 5 hour drive from here.
yeah. I think it is the second weekend of March.
Okay.
So maybe the weekend after Cactus Cup or 2 weekends after.
Okay. I'm gonna look it up. But
It's awesome.
yeah, that's the Sedona riding. There's a loop called the Big Freaking Loop.
Yeah.
It starts like kind of in Oak Creek, and you hit Slim Shady, you hit Highline, and then you go all the way over to Gardner. You kind of loop it all the way around. It kind of loops uh clockwise all the way around Sedona. It's like 55 miles. And I did it on a giant XTC hardtail 90 mil fork. And it was like when I got done, it was like I got beat up by like three men,
Your body is like shattered.
shattered. I was like, oh, I'm gonna go out there, smoke it, get the FKT. No, I got done and I was like, I think I went off course. I'm crying.
Dude, 50 miles of there is the real deal.
Yeah, it took like 6 hours.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
No recovery.
A long time. Yeah. And it was just arms, butt, neck, back,
Yeah.
just everything just got brutalized. But yeah, no, this riding is phenomenal just out here. And then Flagstaff, they're building, I mean, they've already built, I think, 80 miles of new single track all on like
Really?
yeah, Humphreys. And so that's like high alpine kind of crested butte riding, you know, where you go from town and you're instantly climbing up Eldon on a sick, chunky single track. And then you rip an enduro downhill. And then you come
Wow.
back on the road and you can just, I mean, you can go do 80 plus miles out there right now.
That's so sick.
Yeah. So that's kind of why we're like you know, when you're looking for houses, you're like, where is the location that has national forest that like I can go explore? Because,
Yep.
you know, I don't really necessarily like to do work out in the gym. The
Yep.
mental health fitness aspect to working out in nature, whether it's like running or getting on the bike.
Yep.
So we kind of chose Flagstaff for that reason. It's just
It's like
gone.
you look it's like you look for the most outdoor recreation possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Being raised in,
regardless of what it is.
yeah, in Phoenix, which I tell people is the best city in America, city, right?
Yep.
Because before I even moved to Arizona, I was like, hell no, would you ever catch me in Phoenix? Now living here for so many years, if I got a job in Phoenix, we'll move down there in a heartbeat because it
Yep.
has amazing regional parks like
Yep.
McDowell, South Mountain. They have the Maricopa Trail, which I just
It's
found
so
out,
sick.
which
Yeah.
300 and some miles around Phoenix. So
Yeah.
that's on the list. So there's so many cool things about
Super accessible too. Like you can access everything from like Phoenix Mountain Preserve, South Mountain, like you said, McDowell. Haas is exploding right now. Like
yeah,
there's stuff all around the valley. And then I don't know, 50 minutes to an hour, you can be or yeah, you can I'd say about an hour you can be to Mount Ord, which is
yeah,
like in my opinion the most legit climb in the state.
yeah,
Like it's yeah, there's no shortage of stuff you can do on a bike or any outdoor recreation in Phoenix for sure.
yeah. And is that kind of like Arkansas? It's just right out of the back door.
It's insane. Like the trail networks in Northwest Arkansas just like it still blows my mind to
Mhm.
what we have there. And actually, like this is might sound a little corny, but we're like so proud to live there now because the community, like everywhere you go, there's bikes everywhere. It's like out of a movie there. Um, and it's not just Bentonville where all the trails are, right? Like we have things called IMBA Epic Trails, which are they're not in Northwest Arkansas per se. Like there's stuff in Central Arkansas. There's stuff just south of Fayetteville. The gravel riding in Arkansas is almost better than the mountain biking. Like
Really?
there's yeah, there's so many unpaved roads in Arkansas and southern Missouri. It would blow your mind. Like you can go out and ride. I go out and ride south of Fayetteville, so about a 45-minute drive from our house in the Boston Mountain Range. And people assume Arkansas is either relatively flat or just super short, punchy stuff. And that it is very punchy in Arkansas. But if you go to the Boston Mountain Range just south of us, you can find 45-minute climbs all day long. Like there's
Really?
legit, yeah, there's legit stuff there. The further east you go in the state, it's much flatter. But
Yeah.
we are in this, our house as a crow flies, we're like a mile from the Missouri border.
Okay.
Um, so we're in the very, very northwest corner of Arkansas. And yeah, there's nothing flat there. It's either up or down, up or down.
That's
So
awesome. Yeah,
it's
because even the elevation there is relatively low, but
yeah,
it's
it's
constant.
it's about the same as Phoenix.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but the constant change in geography, yeah, having hills. When I think of Arkansas, I think of like kind of like the Midwest, like Kansas, you know.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
totally not like that.
No, it's definitely not. Like you go there and I get way more climbing, way more vert living in Arkansas than I did living here.
Hmm.
And of course, like when I go out and do like structured workouts, I'm like either looping the same section of road, so you're getting more vert that way because you're looping the same climbs probably. But yeah, even on like a proper gravel loop, I get way more vert living there. And I personally enjoy that. Like I enjoy the aspect of climbing.
Yeah.
Um, because yeah, you get the reward for the descent on the other side, but
Yeah.
it's it's a really special place to live. And the winters are pretty mild too. Like, yeah, we'll get probably 2, maybe 3 weeks where it's really nasty.
Yeah.
Uh, but like that's not that bad in the grand scheme of things.
No. No.
So
And it's really hard to find besides Phoenix
yeah,
perfect weather. You know, I mean, when it hits October, November, you can guarantee 90% of the states are experiencing cold.
nasty weather. Yeah.
Yeah, but I see your Strava, you know, I see you out when it's snowing here in Flagstaff and you just did like a 40-mile gravel ride. I'm like, okay, it must be warm.
Yeah, like I mean, I don't know, when was it? Uh 2 or 3 weeks ago, we had extreme weather, like -20. Uh
Dang.
yeah, it was really, really cold. Like we couldn't wash clothes for a week because our the lines froze. We couldn't pull water. We couldn't drink water from the fridge. Um, but that's like I said, it's only about a week or two, maybe 3. We just
Yeah.
ride the trainer for those days. And then I would say like the average in Arkansas where we're at 40s in the winter. Like it's pretty
Not
manageable.
bad.
No.
No, that's what we have here in Flag.
Yeah.
It's pretty manageable, but we're at 7,000 feet, you know?
To be expected. Yeah.
Yeah. But for 7,000 feet, I mean, it's
Pretty.
hot.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think anywhere in this country, if you're at 7,000 feet, it's 52 degrees in February, you know?
That's like shorts and short sleeves.
Dude, right now, yeah. Like after this, I'm gonna go on a run, I think in shorts and a t-shirt. Like it's really nice out right now.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no, and I think that's what's so cool about the states, you know, everywhere from northwest, southeast, northeast. I mean, there's just amazing outdoor recreation.
Yeah, it
And
makes you realize how big the state is. Like the more you travel, or how big the country is, the more that you travel. You're like, this place is, there's so many places to explore.
Yeah. I mean, you go to Germany and it's like Colorado, Nevada, Utah. It's like the size of just 4 states, you know?
Yeah.
You go to our country, it's huge.
Yeah. It's
It's
crazy.
massive. Yeah. And so when you're like driving from Arkansas to Arizona, it's 19 hours. It's crazy.
Oh, that drive is, we were talking about it before we hopped on. It's brutal, but I mean, we get to bring, like when we come, we drove, I flew out for Old Pueblo and then flew home.
Yeah.
Um, and then on this trip, my wife was able to come with me with our two dogs. So it's like no other, people are like, why don't you fly? It's like, well, A, I would prefer to drive. And
Yeah.
B, then I get to bring everything I need. The dogs get to come with us. My
Mhm.
wife gets to come. So
It's an
yeah,
adventure.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, I'm the same way. Um, so like when it comes to this season, what are your, I guess, goals slash expectations, I should say? Um, racing wise, are you going to be doing the circuit or big?
So I didn't get selected for the Grand Prix this year, which if I'm being totally honest, I 100% expected not to be selected. After my past 2 years doing the series, I didn't do myself any favors at all by pretty much not performing at any of the races. And I think some people would say like, "Oh, you had bad luck," and I don't really believe in luck. There is some sort of luck involved, but a lot of ways I think you make your own luck.
Yeah.
And like I just didn't perform well at all at really any event. And that series is getting so competitive that if you don't show up, like you're not going to get selected.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, it was kind of like I think, I think your ego kind of takes a hit a little bit, but at the same time, it's like, well, you just didn't like, there's no excuse. Like, it'd be easy to say, like, well, this happened, so I should be selected. Well, the truth is, I just I didn't get a result that I needed to get selected again. So the only thing that I can do now and control that is like I'm still going to go to a lot of the lifetime races, but at the same time, I was really really bummed when I didn't get selected. And then after a couple of days, I was like, you know what? This kind of opens up some opportunity. Like I get to go do events that I really really want to do. Um, like for example, I've always wanted to do the Vapor Trail.
Hmm.
And the main reason is because it scares like the living shit out of me,
Yeah.
just looking at it and thinking about it. Um, but that one to me is like that's what really excites me is stuff like that. Um, but yeah, I mean we'll do a ton of gravel racing. We'll do like we're gonna do BWR this coming weekend, Cactus Cup, and Mid South. So
Hmm.
that's 3 weeks in a row starting this weekend. Um, and then I'll fly out to Sea Otter, and then the weekend after Sea Otter is Whiskey. So it's definitely a busy schedule, but I think in some ways not being selected, yeah, it hurts, but at the same time, there's positives and negatives to everything, right? And so
Yeah.
I'm kind of just choosing to look at the positive rather than dwelling on the negative. Whereas in the past, I would kind of have a pity party and be like, well, I wish I was selected, and I wouldn't come up with excuses for myself, but I think it's really important to like face reality and like look reality dead on and be like, no one is at fault for not being selected except myself.
Yeah.
Like if you got a mechanical, that's on you. Like I think a lot of times if you get like flat tires, I think a lot of it's rider error. Like if I get a flat tire, it's because I chose the wrong line or I chose the wrong tire pressure. Or
Yeah.
you know what I mean, rather than just like blaming it on other things. So yeah, that's kind of a long-winded way of saying no, I won't be participating in the Grand Prix this year, but I'll still do as many of the events as I can, along with doing a lot of races that are either a new to me or races that I've wanted to do.
That's awesome. And like you said, Taylor, and like if I from the outside perspective, when I look at you as a racer, I see number one, I see you're fast as hell, right? But I also, when I see you, you inspire me to do uh amazing big feats of what I think is impossible. You kind of are a person that a lot of people look up to as like, I think it could be possible. And so I think with the Lifetime Grand Prix, you not getting selected is a blessing in disguise because I think a lot of your fans and people who follow you and look up to you were probably like, sweet, let's see Taylor do all of these things that we want to see. Like, man, you've always been, doing 24-hour plus adventures. Well, man, maybe do the Unbound XL or, these things that you just kind of set a precedent in the way like all the brands see you and your fans see you. The Lifetime Grand Prix was kind of like you're above that. Why do the same races every year against
Yeah.
Tour de France riders? It's just a different, it's a different racing. You're like the kid from the desert who's like, fucking, let's throw some bags on this bitch and let's see how far we go, because I got some demons that I want to slay. Um,
Yeah.
and so I don't know. I personally,
I appreciate that.
yeah, I'm bummed too that you didn't get in, but like I'm stoked to see what you do with this. Like I don't see anything like, oh, Taylor's done. I'm like, sweet. Well, where is he gonna go? Like, what is he gonna do? What
Yeah.
cool documentaries are gonna come out with him like conquering, conquering 50 states and 50, I don't know. Something cool is gonna come from this. So yeah,
That's super nice of you, man. Like I think the thing is I'm I said it earlier, but like I'm a really self-deprecating person, and I I really struggle with like self-confidence.
yeah,
But at the same time, I want to compete against the fastest people in the country to see where I stack up. Um, and I feel like I've gotten in my own way more times than not. Like my head has gotten in the way, and I've let it get in the way. And so that's why I wanted to race the Grand Prix this year. Was like, let's let's try and not step. Let's have a year where we try and not step on my toes at all, and then just see where I line up against the fastest people in the country,
yeah,
right? But that'll have to wait. Obviously, that's okay. Um, so yeah, we'll just take a different approach.
yeah. And why do you think, you know, you've you self-deprecate? Like, is it something that was ingrained as a child, or was it the one time you were playing dodgeball and you just got hit too many times?
In the face, yeah.
Like
I I don't know where it. I think a lot of it has to do with like some people may know, a lot of people probably don't know, but like I've had a pretty checkered past with anxiety and depression.
hmm,
Um, I I'm guessing here, but I think that that may have something to do with it. I also like I assume that everybody that I line up against is more talented and faster than me. And then when I take a step back, I'm like, man, I'm so lucky to have the support that I have. And I have an amazing coach and I have an amazing support system. So why can't I get that confidence? And there's times where like my confidence goes up a little bit and then I will let the dumbest thing knock it down
yeah,
and peg it down. And so I don't know. I wish it was, I don't know, maybe I'm fragile. I don't know. But it's the truth. Like I'm
yeah,
just that way. I'm just wired that way.
yeah. And no, I'm just, I just ask you that question, because we all face that
Hmm.
in so many different perspectives and experiences, though, because I don't want to negate your experience. We all kind of have like really bad thoughts about ourselves, about others, even professional football players who are making millions of dollars, I mean, end up taking their life, right?
Yeah.
So I think um, in light of being a professional athlete And especially younger kids, like 15, I'd say 14 to 20, you don't have enough life experience to kind of travel the emotions that you have that are really bad. You don't really know how to deal with them. Um, Especially when I was younger, anxiety, depression, horrible body image. I would look at myself in the mirror and see someone who's fat, because of my childhood and because of what others have, you know, bullied when I was a kid. I took
Yeah.
that on as my problem. It was like, you're not good enough for me, right? Like,
And it probably creates these habits, right? That like stick with you into adulthood.
totally, even to this day, like even to this day, yeah, I
Yep.
can look in the mirror and go, I don't like what I see,
Yep.
But I've learned through my adulthood that I have a practice where I just say I love you. I look
Hmm.
in the mirror and say, I look at say and look it and say it. And I'm saying it to myself. It's the weirdest experience, You
Yep.
almost like want to tear up. You're like, man, I do love you. You are me and I am you. And we've been through everything together and I just love you.
Yeah.
But
That's interesting that you say that because my wife always tells me, she's like, you need to practice more self-care.
mhm,
And I don't really fully understand what that means from time to time.
mhm,
It's like, oh, you just want to go, 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 go. And before you know it, you like hit this wall. And then my wife is like, you gotta take one day at a time and you have to look after yourself by doing more self-care.
yeah,
That that can mean different things for different people, right? But it's the truth.
yeah. And like I always say, we have the ability to love. I mean, look at the way you love, or the way I love my daughter, the way I love my wife, the way I love my dog, the way I love my friends. Why can't I love myself like that? You know, it's a really tough question to ask. And everyone who's listening can probably say, yeah, what the fuck?
It's
Why?
and it's yeah, it's like you can't come up with a clear answer, but you can come up with a clear answer for the other things.
Yeah, well, because they take care of me. They love, they do all these things for me because that's my
Mhm.
daughter. Of course, I'm gonna love her.
Yeah.
But you have done everything for yourself. I mean, you've gotten yourself to this point. You have a support system that you've created. There's so many reasons to love
Hmm.
yourself. But we decide, I think, ego or something is coming up with excuses to not, because the mind is powerful, man. When that thinking train starts, it's hard to not get into it.
It's like I can circle it back to the bike maybe so people can understand a little bit. Um, I look back to just last weekend at Old Pueblo, right? And I'm like, oh, maybe I got lucky that I was able to link those laps together. Maybe I got really lucky, like maybe lap traffic was down on my laps, so that allowed it. Like I'll always come up with these reasons why I get something and not look at the truth, I would say. And yeah, I'm like, well, maybe I was only capable of that one time. Maybe I'm not capable of that ever again. And it's just like this irrational way of thinking. And it's definitely not a nice way to think or a nice way to look at yourself. But
Mhm.
like, I'm not afraid to say it. It is because it's the truth, right? Like that's just how I think.
Yeah. And I respect that you're open and honest about it, because it can open up a conversation to help someone who's going through what you've been through, what you are going through as well. Um, and I think it's funny, when you say like you're coming up with excuses like, well, maybe it was like lap traffic was messed up, or the dirt moisture level was actually at a lower percentage, or
And maybe I got the perfect condition. Like maybe things lined up perfectly for me, that allowed me to get this lap count. Whereas then like other people had worse conditions. So that's, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm always trying to, I don't know. It's so weird.
It's so weird. Yeah. And we all do it, right? And it's like, would you ever, during the 24 hours of Old Pueblo, tell Lachlan, you just got lucky, dude. Lachlan
No.
took it down. Dirt moisture level percentage was way down, dude. You had the perfect condition. That's why. It's like you would never, and like you would just never. And so it's just funny because I do the same thing. I'm sure everyone who's listening does the same thing to themselves, like this self-deprecating. I'm like, nah, man, you're not good enough. Screw you. You wouldn't have
Yeah.
done that, right? You're like, we would never say that to anyone else. And it's so bad that we do say it to ourselves and like catching yourself, tell yourself that. It's like, hey, stop being mean to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
But to yourself.
yeah, like literally, like, hey, stop being mean to me. That hurts my feelings.
Yeah.
I've never done that. Maybe it'll help,
It's
like actually catching yourself and being like, hey, can you stop being mean to me?
dude, it's so weird. Like I don't know. I wish I had like a concrete answer as to why. And I'm sure other people, I'm sure you wish you had that same answer for when you do it and when others do it. And it's just I think in some ways it's a good trait, right? Like there's because it keeps like the humility in things, it keeps you humble.
Yeah,
Because in my opinion, like humility is kind of the like the pinnacle of things. If you can't do anything without humility, like what's the point?
yeah,
Um, but you also need to be able to shift and like be proud of what you accomplish, no matter how big or small it may seem to you personally, and like look back and be like, yeah, that's really cool. Like I'm
yeah,
glad like, I did that.
yeah,
I did that with the help of other people. Like that was really cool that we accomplished that.
yeah.
But it's so freaking hard to do because
It,
you always want to redirect it, right? You always want to redirect and be like, ah, the only reason I did that was because of the sport. The only reason I did that is because X, Y, or Z.
yeah.
So it's weird.
Was the hours of training and dedication and love for the sport and the love for your body and making sure that you get the perfect sleep and nutrition and you feed yourself right, like that's the truth. That's
Yeah.
like that's it all came together and your wife helped and Ken and all these people were there and um no, I'm speaking as if like I'm speaking through you, 'cause I don't know what happens, but I can see like you do put in good hours and you do treat your body right. Honestly, we all have those times where the mind kind of takes over,
Yeah.
it is just so funny how we do that, especially a professional athlete, and that's why I thank you for talking about that is because there's a girl or a guy listening who looks up to you and is like, it's okay, but
Yeah.
how can I fix this,
Mm-hmm. And it's
Uh,
also like the kind of the social media world that we live in, right? Is people see somebody from one angle and they think, oh, they have it all figured out. And you never have anybody figured out. Like you don't know at all what's going on behind closed doors. You don't know what's going on in someone's head. Like it's better to just be rather than assume, and I'm guilty of it. Like I'm not ashamed to say like I make assumptions about people
yeah.
through social media. I just do. But if you take a step back and be like, I'm gonna erase that a little bit and just erase assumptions
Mhm.
because you never know what's going on in somebody's head. Like they may seem like they have it all figured out and they don't. And some people that it looks like they don't have it figured out, they may be in a way better place than the next guy or girl. So it's just a weird world that we live in of like, you just kind of got to walk this fine line of assuming a position that somebody's in.
Yeah, yeah. um and walking with the grace of compassion towards everyone, because it could be something that you say in the grocery store, you were irritated, you had a bad day, and you just said something mean to someone who really did not need to hear that, and who might be actually going through a really hard time,
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so I think mental health, it's so much bigger than just depression and anxiety. I mean, it is it is a major issue. I studied psychology. Mindfulness is what I researched. Um, I mean, I delve into it. Like
Hmm.
I've really studied the effects of mental health and what that can do to everyday life. You know,
Yep.
like when you play a video game, you play because it's a joyful experience,
Yep.
right? And then when you wake up from sleep, the first thing some people say is, "Fuck, I gotta go to work," right? What?
It's like this doom and gloom right away.
Yeah, like I'm, I'm here. And when you like step back, it's like, well, treat it as a video game. Like
Yep.
you create your experience, whatever the mind can conceive, the mind can achieve, but walk life as if it's a video game and
It brings you joy.
play.
Yep.
You literally have you like me and you share a similar connection, and my wife, and I'm sure your wife as well. Like we play, like
Hmm.
we go ride like kids.
We
Like,
get to travel and we get to do so many things that like sadly other people don't have the
yeah,
ability to do. Right. It's crazy. When we drove into town yesterday, my wife and I, obviously we don't experience the same traffic in Northwest Arkansas that we do in Phoenix. So
yeah.
we're coming in around rush hour and we're on the 101 going south and the traffic was just brutal. And my wife and I started talking of like, this gives like, I start to freak out when I'm in traffic like that. We both were like, the only thing that helps it is you just have to like surrender and be like, there's literally nothing I can, I can't control any of this. So
Yeah.
just wait in line like everybody else. But then we got to talking too about like how many people in the car next to us, in front of us, behind us are like dealing with something else that it's all what I'm trying to say is like everybody's experience is relative, right? Everybody's hard is relative, everybody's struggle is relative. So like, yeah, like I may be, and it wasn't like I was freaking out in traffic. It was just we observed it, right? It's like, oh shit, this is we don't see this every day where we live now. But like if I get heightened a little bit in traffic now, maybe the person next to me is ultra heightened.
Mhm.
And then that makes them spiral. So you just don't know. Like there's so many people on the 101 going south. Like you don't know what every person's going through.
Yeah. Two cars
Wow.
ahead of you, the man's getting a divorce and he's losing everything. Three cars to your right, there's a baby just screaming their head off, and the parents
Yeah.
are losing. It's just like it is.
Somebody got diagnosed with terminal cancer, but then
Yeah,
somebody's getting married tomorrow. Like it's wild to think.
yeah, that is crazy.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it is like count your blessings, and like in my experience, I feel the most whole when I'm living in a state of love
Hmm.
or like a state of stoke. And I don't mean that as like advertising purposes, but
Yeah.
like like I love being stoked. Like stoked to start a new day, stoked for my coffee to brew, stoked to
Hmm.
drink my first coffee. Like the
Yeah.
little things, stoked to give my daughter a kiss, my wife a kiss in the morning, stoked to go to work. You like finding the little nuances and
Dude, when you say that, you know what that reminds me of? The people I love the most at bike races
yeah.
are the people, and this is, how do I say this without maybe offending somebody? Maybe the guy or girl that comes in at the back of the pack
Mhm.
is the most stoked. My wife and I are always like, fuck, like I want to live like that.
Yeah.
Like if they come in last place, but they cross the line and they're like the most ecstatic and they're just like high on life,
Mm.
like that person, that's they've got it going on. Like
Yeah.
that's the person right there.
They were out there 3 hours longer,
But
suffered 3 hours more.
but they are like the most ecstatic at the finish line.
Yeah.
And they may have literally come in dead last, but they don't give a shit.
No.
And I'm like, God, that person is they've got something going on that the majority of us don't. And I want some of that. Like I definitely want what they and I don't know, maybe it's a thing that they're portraying, but it sure doesn't seem like it a lot of the times I've seen it.
Yeah. And I'm sure the person that comes in last place has an amazing life.
Oh yeah,
You know,
definitely.
like is the one who came in last on their like sales and report. Who like, I didn't make $0, like
But
uh
they show up, they're like they're showing up every day.
yeah.
So they're doing what they can, but it's way more to them than it is to maybe you or I. Like I
Mhm.
don't know how much like what it is to you, but I know what it is to me. And
Yeah.
I wish I had that, what they have.
Yeah. When you come through the line and 10th, yeah,
Yeah.
like I did it, but you travel and that's your job, right? And you do this on a weekly, almost monthly basis, and that's probably their only race. So
Yeah.
their experience is so different, like
Yeah, but it doesn't mean like it doesn't mean like we can't change that, right? Like, let's be totally honest. I'm never, ever gonna beat Keegan, someone of his caliber in a
yeah,
race. Like it's not gonna happen. I'm
yeah,
not gonna show up to a lifetime Grand Prix event and win one of those things.
yeah,
I'm the first person to admit that.
yeah,
So the sooner I can accept that, the more stoke I can have about the experience and
yeah,
about the race. Like
yeah,
it's weird. But it's also like I think we all need to work on figuring it out. At least I do. I can't speak for anybody else, but I definitely do.
yeah. Because if could you imagine? I speak to the younger generation, because they're the next people that are going to change our world.
Mhm.
If they see Taylor Lideen come in, let's just say at a Lifetime Grand Prix, 20th place, with both hands in the air, stoked and high-fiving and being just this vibrant energy, they're going to do that because they see that that's an example that is being set, you know?
Mhm.
So, like,
They're also gonna be like, "Oh, that looks super fun.
that looks sick.
Like I want to do that."
He didn't come in with his head down and he was upset or he was sad or mad or cussing.
Yeah.
No one wants to do that, It's like they want to embody the liveness of the sport,
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I first started racing, man, I was just stoked to take fifth and expert. I was like, yeah, fifth place,
Yeah.
that's huge. And you
Yeah.
take second and first, and you're like, whoa, I don't belong in expert anymore. Like
Yeah.
maybe I got to bump up a little bit. I take 10th. Oh, yeah, 10th and pro. It's just all like so relative. And then now we're doing it for a long time. It's just like, fuck, third, you know?
Yeah.
Damn it, third place.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so crazy to think, but and same in life, right? It's like we have that same experience. Some people are stoked to have their first cup of coffee. Some people, ugh, Bulgars again?
Yeah.
Dark. It's like such a mindset, and like, and it's
That's so
contagious.
true. It is such a mindset, right? It's like,
Yeah,
is it a mindset of lowering expectation or is it a mindset of like being more present? I don't know.
yeah. I I'm no Buddha, but I think it's just the lack of presence.
Yeah. That's totally true.
Like the lack of presence, the more presence you have, the more life you feel in the things that are here now. Like you feel your breath, right? Like just to feel that, because like a lot of meditation and spiritual teachings are just breathe.
Hmm.
Like, that's some spiritual teachers just say sit and breathe and learn from that. And
Yeah.
when you feel it, it's like, oh yeah, that's actually beautiful that we can do this.
And it's
Simple.
pretty uncomfortable if you don't do it.
Yeah.
Like I'll admit, like I've never been able to meditate.
Yeah.
I just haven't been able to. And I think I've said this in previous podcasts, but I think the bike is some way like some type of meditation. Like when I go out and ride and it's just by myself. I'm sure you can relate to the same thing. Um,
100%.
but you're right. Like it's if it's uncomfortable at first to be like, I'm just gonna sit still,
Yeah.
not have a TV going, not have my phone playing, like whatever. But it's I feel like the more you can do that, the more you can kind of appreciate the now and be present.
Yeah. And the bike teaches you that too. I mean, the
Mhm.
climbs, everything, you have to be present. I mean, you have to be
Yep.
completely available. So yeah,
Yep.
no, I agree that the bike is a meditation and it's easier. I feel like sometimes than to just sit
Yeah. Yeah.
and breathe, you know?
For sure.
Then we got to deal with this.
Yeah.
You know, the bike can
That's
just
the yeah, you bike and you block it all out.
smash. Yeah, my body's aching. I love
Yeah.
it. You know, I think we're very similar in a lot of ways. Like bike riders, we ride bikes because we're kind of addicted to pain.
Yeah.
I cannot go a day without not putting my physical body through some form of pain. That not bad pain, good pain. Like I like to feel pain. But
Yeah.
is it because of this? Maybe. I don't know. Like,
It's like
but
we saw you when we were pre-riding at Old Pueblo, we saw you running.
oh yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, after the whiskey tree. And I'm like, dude, well, first of all, I can't run to save my life.
Yeah.
B, I'm like, God, that looks awful. Like running, but I'm like, he's loving it. He's doing it.
I hated it, but I didn't have my bike, and
Yeah.
so I have to figure it out. If it's snowing outside, I'm in the gym, dude, going hard.
Dude, you were out there. How long of a run did you do?
6 miles. Yeah.
God,
6 mile trail run. Yeah.
gnarly.
Yeah, dude. But if I'm at the dad fitness point in my life where I just want to be the badass dad, go whether it's doing an ultra trail race or let's go ride from Flag to Sedona and back to
Yep.
running to work to fucking doing muscle ups in the gym to I just want to be like her boyfriends look at me and go, nope, I don't want to.
Yeah.
That's like I'm in that point of my my fitness is like I just want to be well rounded. I know I'm not going to be the a major pro mountain biker anymore. Like I got a family to look after, doesn't pay the
Mhm.
bills, but I'm gonna go out there and try to rip some legs off with you guys. Like
Yeah. You're out in charge.
I'm gonna go out and charge. Yeah, I got running legs on me, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so I think, um, but yeah, no, I think what we talked about, I appreciate you opening up and telling and being vulnerable. It gives a lot of people a space to open up and be vulnerable and to talk, to hear someone like you. I look up to you, and I'm sure a bunch of other people look up to you, but to see that person be vulnerable and honest about mental health, um, self-deprecating thoughts, um, other people who are probably battling something as deep as you did, as we all did, to the point where they don't feel like living.
Hmm.
They're going to talk to someone
Yeah.
and they're going to change, or they're not, or they're going to be heard. And that's all that counts, I feel like, And so it's like conversations like this that open the door for people because it's the
Yeah.
hardest thing is that you can relate. Not that you're not going to talk to anyone.
That is the hardest part is asking for help. And I've said it so many times, but like when I was going through some pretty bad places, um, mainly before we moved to Arkansas, like it got really bad, to the point of like that's when the suicidal thoughts came in.
Hmm.
Of the hardest thing to do is admit to Mary about that.
Yeah.
But the scariest thing to me about it all is that there's a lot of people out there that don't have a support system, right? Or they may be living alone. They don't have a significant other. They're not living with family. They may not have a bunch of close friends. So, like, what do they do?
Yeah.
That is terrifying to me. I wish I could be like, well, you do X, Y, or Z. I don't know. Because I was really, really fortunate enough to have Mary
Yeah.
and then friends and family. So yeah, it's a it's like a dark conversation, but it's a real conversation.
It's It's as real as it gets.
Yeah.
It's as real as it gets. And so, um, your oh, your documentary of shifting mindsets for me was so cool to see.
Appreciate it.
Here's my daughter.
Oh, hi.
Say hi. Did you
What's
really
she doing?
you really want to see dad? She was trying to put the beans in the toilet. See, dude, full-time job.
I mean, do you guys have just loads of coffee beans at the house, or do you have like a storage facility in Flag?
We have sometimes loads of coffee beans that just go bad. There's no human who can pound 5 pounds of daily brew, like in their little McCafe. So yeah,
Yeah.
we go to the shop and just get like little bags. Um,
Okay.
yeah, but uh, we have coffee everywhere. It's just like kind of when you're like a drug dealer, dude, you got drugs everywhere. Like
In the walls, under the
the
mattress.
walls. Oh yeah, dude. If I hit this drywall right now, about 14 pounds of espresso beans are gonna fall out.
So how did this come about for you? The coffee truck.
Yeah, dude.
I should call it a trailer, not a truck.
Being an inspiring professional mountain biker, I was just getting into like the sport, and I was like, wow. I was also a general manager of a restaurant, which was very taxing. I mean, I didn't have my weekends, which means I couldn't go race. I was having these 40+ hour weeks, overworked, underpaid. I was like, fuck it. And then someone came to me and just said, hey, I have a friend who is selling a coffee trailer. You have experience in the restaurant, you have experience bartending. Like, was this something you wanted to do? I was like, sure, where does it go? All the mountain bike races. So I was like, if I can go cater to my community, I'm in. So yeah, that's how we got into it. And then as we went into it, I realized I can't race. I can't race. We can't have weekends. That was my business, was weekends. And
Yeah.
so we ended up selling a portion to the roastery. And so we're going to slowly get out of the mobile coffee business so we can have racing and weekends and a normal job. So now I'm into property management and real estate up here. So kind of,
So was the coffee business like, did you have a contract with a, the local roaster with their beans? And is that how the relationship was built for you? Like, sorry if I'm asking too many questions
no,
about
dude,
this.
ask. I love
I'm
it.
just super interested. Like,
Yeah. So yeah, we basically bought the mobile business and it was branded to the roastery.
okay,
So we would just buy the beans at a very discounted price. With the roastery went under new ownership, and so now everything is more streamlined. So what? Ow. Here, come here. But yeah, so it's more streamlined. Um,
okay,
like there's no contract. It's more of just like your normal inventory that you have to buy.
okay.
Yeah. And
So,
it's great because you will get a discount. You buy bulk.
yep.
Dude, sell a cup of coffee, man. $4 for a daily brew.
Hmm.
That cost me the cup maybe is 3 cents, and the amount of coffee you use for that 12-ounce pour was probably half a cent. So it's like, the profit margins are crazy in the business of coffee.
Hmm. But
Yeah.
then again, you have to look at like coffee espresso machines are not cheap.
No,
The trailer was probably not cheap. The gas to
no.
go back and forth is not cheap. And then do you hire employees, or is the roaster now bringing employees to?
Now the roaster is gonna bring employees, but Kenzie, she's just gonna man the coffee trailer for Cactus Cup. So
Okay,
so she's just gonna run it by herself.
okay,
But moving forward, the roastery is gonna put employees in that trailer. But yeah, as you said, it's expensive. That's why I'm selling, like business insurance, the amount of milks and coffee you have to buy, gasoline, shit breaks.
yeah,
Dude, when you're a business owner, you got to pay sometimes a lot of money to fix that problem. to
Yeah.
do business, and so it was just overwhelming. Just the amount of unexpected things that happened for us
Yeah.
to like, you know what? We do want to save money. We do want to buy a house one day. And if we continue down this path, it'll never happen just because it was enough to just get by. But it was just, we never knew what would happen next. Like,
Yeah.
because,
You were just living like in this big question mark.
yeah, like if the espresso machine went, we were done. Like, so you're just living on this like edge of, oh no. Like,
Is
and
that the OG espresso machine that came with the trailer, or have
oh yeah,
you had to replace it?
one purchase, everything included.
Okay.
And the espresso machine's, yeah, like 9 grand if you were to buy it used.
Yeah.
So we really bought an espresso machine in a trailer,
On
like
wheels. Yeah.
on wheels. Like that's what you pay for. Um, but yeah, I recommend it to anyone in a smaller scale. Like that trailer does really good at Old Pueblo, but we need to do events like Old Pueblo every weekend for it to be a good, profitable business.
Can you set up like with your, I'm assuming that you have like an LLC on that you run it under and your business insurance. Can you run it on a like rented piece of property in Flagstaff? That's so it's
Yeah,
running on the clock. Like, do you do that there?
we did that in Cottonwood at the bike shop.
Okay.
Um, and it costs a lot of money to run a day.
Yeah.
Generator, gas, and inventory. S- And the foot traffic was just slow. We were in there the wrong season. There were so many things we could have done differently. And we just came out at a loss. And we said, with events are where they're at because you take this thing to Old Pueblo where there's thousands of people and you're the only coffee guy. When
Yeah.
you're parked at a location, when they have Starbucks, the local roaster, they have like other options. They're not going to go to the mountain bike trailer, like it looks
So
really good on the inside, but
is OP like is that the biggest event of the year for you guys?
by far, by
Okay.
far. Yeah. Cactus Cup, it's up there for sure. But as you know, it's not the Super Bowl of bike
Okay.
events,
Yeah.
you know?
That's another thing too, right? Is like, yeah, you get people that camp at that event, but it's so close to Fountain Hills that people probably commute to
Yep.
and from every day. And so they're gonna pass how many coffee shops on the way in.
Yeah,
So like you're the potential customers that you can capture are probably diminished. Whereas at Old Pueblo, you're relatively speaking in the middle of nowhere.
we're nowhere. Yeah, I'll even tell people I'll like yell out the window, throw that away. Come get a cup of good coffee. Like they'll be
Yeah.
walking with like Starbucks or Dutch Bros. Throw
Yeah.
that junk away. Because we make really good coffee, even in the middle of nowhere, like
Yeah.
so I always because it's crazy. Like when you are a business owner and you see like someone walk around with Starbucks or like Dutch Bros, it crushes you. Like, and they
Hmm.
all look at each other like, how dare they? Like they knew we were gonna be here. Like, so now ever since, like we'll always support the local businesses,
Yeah.
smaller businesses, because we know how important you walking in the door is
Yeah.
for like that mom and pop. Because
Yeah.
your cup of coffee could have made or break our weekend. Because if 25 people decided to get Starbucks, that's a lot of money down the drain.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's been like the best learning experience
How many
ever.
years have you had it now?
3 years.
Okay.
Yeah, 3 years. And we love it and we hate it.
I bet.
Like,
I bet.
yeah, because I did a lot of racing with it too. So like we pull that trailer to like NBAA,
Yeah.
NBAA.
Hmm.
Um, it's the local race series in Arizona. Starts in January, ends in May. That's one of our contracts is that race series. And so we pull that trailer to McDowell and I'd get it ready, load it up, get my kit on, go race the marathon, come back,
Come right back.
yeah, sweaty, in my kit, start pulling shots and making drinks. Like, dude, it was crazy. And like Cactus Cup when I met you, Just got done with my
Yeah.
ribs. I'm sweaty. And I was like, oh, Taylor, sorry, dude. So good to see you. I gotta hop back in there. Bump, hop in.
Is it tough too with like owning something like that? Because I know a little bit on the back end, like that vendors need to pay for spots at events, right? It's not free for these people to show up and just
No.
their trailer in at an event. Was that another thing that was stressful? Is like trying to like manage what events charged you in terms of like what profit margin you guys took from the event?
Oh yeah. That's something that like we didn't know coming into it.
Hmm.
BAA was a relationship that I have with Tim, who's the event director,
Yeah.
and the previous owner built a relationship. So he doesn't charge us. We just
Okay.
give all the volunteers free coffee. Like
Yeah.
like we normally do anyway. Like at OP, people will come up, hey, I'm volunteering. Dude, here, what do you want? Like
Hmm.
we're
That's
in the middle
awesome.
of nowhere. Let's help you out. But to get into Old Pueblo, we also had to pay $1,000. That's a lot of money. So when we're risking the biscuit at some events like Fountain Hills Art Festival, when it's
Yeah.
$1,000 entry, we have to make $1,000 in the first day to even break even.
Hmm.
And so, dude, some vendors like I don't know how they make it. Coffee's
Yeah.
like profitable. Some people are selling like their paintings out there and have to pay like 450,
Or
you
like
know?
rugs or something, you know?
Yeah, and like Old Pueblo, everyone kind of does successful out there. Todd does a really good job. He's like, he'll tell you, you're paying $1,000, but I guarantee you, if you do not make double or triple or quadruple that, I'll pay you back the $1,000. Like he knows.
He knows, yeah.
But some events, man, we've paid, and I've actually had to like t contact the director and say, hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
Like we paid you $700 and we made 650. Can you need a refund? That's time, money. I mean,
You're
that's
asking too much for us to be able to plot here or plop down here.
yeah.
Nobody can make it work then.
No, because you're relying on the last month to pay your entry. So then you pay your entry and now you're down that month. So hopefully this next event will bring you double that
Hmm.
when your next event entry fee comes. So it's just it's a new way to manage. It's hard to manage that money coming in and coming out, like when an event was bad, dude, we would be screwed. It's scary because you
That's
pay a lot. Like we sacrifice the milks, the coffee, like everything we buy to bring to the public, and no one buys it. Well, now we're out the $300 that we bought, you know?
what do you guys do? Just start like sit by the side of the road on the way home and chug milk and like
Dude, at that point, we're like, if we have a loss, we go and we set up on like before I had a full time and I was just doing the business, I would go and set up the trailer somewhere to sell that inventory
yeah, just get it
at the bike
get
shop.
it gone. Yeah.
Yeah, and like hopefully sell the inventory, to make that $300. So it's crazy, dude. It's a crazy business. Yeah.
That's wild. It's
Put
cool
some
to kind of hear about that because otherwise people just don't understand, right? They just see a coffee shop in the desert in Old Pueblo and they think like,
oh,
oh, they just showed up
oh,
here.
I just showed up here and they're just happy to be here. No, that took a full week of prepping and ordering and like going in there and organizing and then like for
And
OP.
you guys aren't just there for like you need to make something because you guys are giving up your time to travel from Flagstaff, which is what, 3.5, four
Yeah,
hours. Like
we
it's
did
a
175 gallons of water we took to put that in like perspective. That's like 1,600 pounds of water.
holy shit.
Yeah, yeah. So like to go to OP, there's some planning that goes into that because
Yeah.
you got to make sure that we're feeding the public caffeine.
How much maintenance does your machine need after that weekend?
Oh, dude, that machine, old Betty, dude, she will like pump espresso nonstop, and like we don't even touch her. Like we clean her
But like no major maintenance.
once a year. That thing
Really?
is stout. All pressure. It's like an old like steam engine uh train. That thing is like,
Awesome.
yeah, it's badass. But there's just, we wanted change. We didn't want the 9 to 5.
Hmm.
We were pregnant. Like we bought this a little bit before we found out we were pregnant. Dude, we were like, we want to live the traveling lifestyle. We want to live in a van. We want to just take this thing everywhere. We wanted that excitement, and it brought us more than that. Like, but at the same time, it was hard. It's still a business, and doing it with the person you love could be hard. Like they
Yeah.
say, never go into business with your wife or with your husband because it's hard. It
Gonna
becomes,
be stressors. Yeah.
yeah, it's very stressful. Especially if that's your make it break it for your month's rent. Like it could be really stressful. Um, but it brought us to amazing places and brought me to meeting you. It brought me to Cactus Cup, and I meet directors, and I like, dude, the community. Like it is insane what that trailer has brought to my life. I mean, it brought me to my community. I mean, when people see
Yeah.
me, like, oh, the coffee guy. Dude, I could be in
Yeah.
Colorado and like, you're the coffee guy, right? I'm like, yeah, I'm the coffee guy. It's just so it's
Dude, 2 or 3 years down the road, you're like the coffee guy who sold the trailer
yeah,
guy.
yeah. Now I used to be the coffee guy,
Yeah.
and I'm like, hey, I race bikes too. Like, oh, you do? That's cool, dude. So how did you do the coffee? It's like, but
That's great.
yeah, I love it, and that's a whole metaphor in itself. That trailer, dude, I call it the white box of hell. Sometimes that thing can like, yeah, it's kept me up for many nights
Oh,
for
I
sure.
can only imagine.
Yeah, dude, but it's it'll be at Cactus Cup. I got my daughter's a redhead. She's just running around screaming.
Yeah, I'm stoked to get some coffee from you here in a week and a half.
Yeah, dude, so excited. And I'll see you in like 2 days, 3 days.
Yeah, BWR. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing the wafer.
Okay.
Just not putting in my normal base. I
Yeah.
haven't had time to put in base. So doing the wafer for the training for the Cactus Cup.
Are you doing Cactus Cup? Will you race uh all 3 days, or are you gonna just do one day with running the trailer as well?
All three.
Okay.
Yeah, short track's easy and fun, and that's my wheelhouse.
Yep.
Watts. Um, and then the 40 and then enduro, I guess, also is my wheelhouse, just being a
Yeah.
bigger, but and then enduro, it's quick. It's kind of in and out, and it's a very slow day for the coffee trailer.
Yeah, people are traveling home. We're gonna drive directly from the venue and start our drive home that day.
Mm,
I assume a lot of people are in the same boat, right? Like
yeah,
if they flew in, they're flying out, or if they're traveling out of state, they want to get going on Sunday.
totally. Yeah, and so doing all 3 days, um, and it's gonna hurt. Like when I'm training, I say training just prolongs the hurt. So I
Yeah.
know I'm coming into Cactus Cup like it's gonna hurt.
So
Yeah.
that's a good thing. It's a good thing though.
Yeah, like Pemberton last year, I was like able to stay on some wheels and it hurt, but I was definitely in really good shape. This year I'll be like, I don't know though, dude. I've been doing like CrossFit and running and doing all these other things. And I went out to Cottonwood yesterday or this last weekend and put a KOM up on this. It's a local segment. It's like a big climb. And I had the
Mhm.
KOM and I beat it my own time by 18 seconds. And at that time I
Yeah.
was like really fit. And so I'm like, shit, dude, I actually might be way fitter than I think I am.
You're super fresh. Like you're perfect. You're going in super fresh.
Yeah, I guess. And at altitude, I actually didn't touch my bike for months. I was so recovered. I went out
That's awesome.
stomped. But um, Taylor, anyway, dude, I'll let you get to the night. And I, once again, dude, respect you and uh, look up to you. And I can't wait to see what you do this year.
Thank you,
Um,
man. Thank you for everything. It's been awesome to get to know you, and I just appreciate the time so much. Like
yeah, dude.
it was great seeing you last week or 2 weeks ago, I guess, down in near
Yeah,
Tucson, and I'm stoked to see you this weekend too. So
yeah.
I appreciate it very, very much.
Totally, dude. And you have my number, and anytime you're in Arizona, hit me up. I'm gonna show you around
Sweet.
Flagstaff. What? She's
She's
going
going crazy.
going crazy. Yeah. But yeah, dude, so much love. We'll stay in touch, but
Sounds
thanks for
good.
doing it today.
Yeah, thank you, man.
All right.
All right, bye-bye.
Wait.